What is going on, everybody? King of Chaos, Logan Black here, and you're checking out another episode of Dude. Have you heard this? It's the show where a bunch of friends get together and chat up some of our favorite under-the-radar albums. With me, as always, Johnny Torres and Scotty Cerriti. Say hello, Mental Gin.
What's going on, everybody?
Heyo.
And joining us, now a two-time guest, Truman. How you doing, man?
Great. We all need haircuts, I think. What's happening?
No, I shaved my sides for Synergy this past weekend. This room is so brutally hot, and I can't turn the fan on or else it just sounds like Darth Vader in here. But that's going to get me more motivated to chat up this awesome week's worth of music. Let's just go right into it. Truman, I'm going to go with your pick for a specific reason, and that's because this is probably the band that I've heard the most about. Oh man, probably since we started the show, and just never heard anything from because I am a terrible fan of punk rock music. So go ahead and lay it on us, man.
Rocket from the Crypt, Scream Dracula Scream, probably their best album, I would say. I mean, you could say it's their most well-known, but Rocket from the Crypt is not really that big of a well-known band. I think if you're a huge fan of the band, this is probably the one you go to. They tried to get some airplay. It happened a little bit, but this album is absolutely killer. The first three songs, they just rip right into each other. It's just amazing. I don't even know how to describe the genre of music that they play. It's not ska, it's punk rock with horns, I guess, with a 50s sound. But yeah, this band I absolutely love.
I'm so glad that you were like the 50s sound on there, because I was getting that a lot. I had put down that in some of the tracks I had gotten a New York Dolls vibe, which, they were just playing, 50 songs faster. And then sometimes they get a Springsteen vibe here and there, which, the boss was always, influenced by, the early stages of rock and roll. So I'm glad that I'm kind of on the same page with you, is that this was, you hit it right on the head. This is a killer record. I want to get everybody else's opinion before I hop in and gush on this one. I'll start with you, Scotty. What did you think?
This is 100% a great record, and I would agree it's definitely their best. I don't think there's a bad song across this album. I don't think there is a single song that I skip anytime I listen to it. And this is just like a really, really good punk rock / rock and roll album.
This was really, I put down that 2 tracks in and I was ready to party. This to me sounds like party music. You know what I mean? And maybe that's not the right term for it, but this really was like, I could totally fucking party to this record.
That's the way you describe it. Fucking party.
Yeah, you go out, you rage, you dance around and stuff. This is what I'd want playing at a party instead of, any of the other shit that I go to parties at. And I'm just kind of like, well, I'm awkward and weird. Johnny, what did you think of this one?
Right up my alley in terms of how it tiptoes right across the an alternative punk rock line of sorts, like an alt rock punk hybrid of sorts, because it was really all over the place, but in the best way possible. In my notes here, I do have notes of Born to Run era Springsteen in here, so absolutely got plenty of boss out of this. It was really just proceeding through the whole record, sometimes very straight ahead punk, sometimes you got that Brian Setzer flavor, that Brian Setzer, Bruce Springsteen flavor of rock and roll meets folky elements. So yeah, really a lot to like here. And I'm in the same boat as you, Jake, in that I've been seeing Rocket from the Crypt stuff around for what feels like forever, but I had never actually really looked into any. So this was my first full length from them.
Yeah, so my actual first, for the first time they were mentioned, I had heard them, was by Wesley Willis. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the legendary Wesley Willis. For those of you watching along who don't know who Wesley Willis is, he was a man battling chronic schizophrenia who played songs on what was essentially a Casio keyboard. He'd hit the demo button and sing songs on it. Just brilliant, brilliant music. And in one of his songs, he opens up by just going, "Scream, Dracula, Scream." And that's where I guess I had first heard this, and then other people talk about this. The two songs that really stood out to me more than anything was "On a Rope," which I felt was like that is a sing along song. That's your anthem that you're gonna go and you're gonna scream with everybody else at a sweaty club. And "Used." That was the one that I was like, this is really giving me a lot of that Springsteen and New York Dolls vibe. At the same time, I also really felt like I got. I wrote down, this is X Games music. Like I could totally see this band playing as like Bucky Lassick is going up for like to hit a 540 method. I know those are moves, so there you go. With that said, what did we with the grades that we do for all these albums now? That's become a weekly tradition. What grade did you guys give Rocket from the Crypt's Scream Dracula Scream? I'm going to start with you, Truman.
Oh, I'm giving this 9 Fonzie jackets out of 10. It's
Scott?
not. I love their music so much. If I could pick a couple songs and put on this album, it would be a straight 10. But 9 out of 10 Fonzie jackets, that's not so bad.
Absolutely. Scotty, what did you think of this one?
9 pompadours and skate helmets out of 10.
Johnny?
7 punks with matching shirt tie combos out of 10.
Man, I think Johnny and I are more on the same page with the rating. I gave this one 8 out of 10 pairs of Globe sneakers you bought at PacSun. With all that said, any other questions, comments, feelings, or concerns about Scream Dracula Scream?
I was just gonna say, when you mentioned "On a Rope," that song was actually on this compilation. It wasn't like an X Games comp, but it was like one of those that like you'd probably get at like the Warped Tour.
Hell yeah.
And it had a real sweet remix of Limp Bizkit's "Counterfeit." Let me tell you guys, that was the jams. Jammed so hard to that song.
All right, I 100% am going to look this remix up of that song, because that Limp Bizkit album I am such a ridiculous fan of. I actually spoke to Sonny Kiss on Saturday about because Sonny is like the biggest Limp Bizkit fan. I was like, yo, that first record, that's where we will meet, and that's the only place we will meet, Sonny. But yeah, I got to check it out for that. And yeah, did they play Warped Tour back in the day? I'm sure they did.
They played, I believe, the second Warped Tour.
Okay, so we're going way back with that. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, anybody else before we move on to the next record? Cool. Let's go with Johnny's pick. Johnny, lay this one on us.
Being the sole New England representative here, I occasionally have to throw in some gold from New England here, and there's nobody better than A Loss for Words. This week was The Kids Can't Lose by A Loss for Words. Out of their extremely decorated catalog, this was probably their best. It's a really hard pick, though, because honestly, their whole catalog is damn magic, and even the stuff that's like not on Spotify is incredible. I was lucky enough to see them at Warped Tour in 2012, and then one other time, I want to say it was 2009, but the years escape me there. But they've always been such a treasure to me. They've always been one of those bands where I'd see on like pretty short tours for the most part. Like they do like 10 show tours going through like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, but that's really it. And then around towards the end there, they started doing a couple nationwides, but then like they broke up like a year later. So it was almost like you wonder what could have been. But absolutely a treasure of pop punk, a treasure of New England pop punk, to be more specific. And it was only a matter of time before they were going to be one of my picks on here.
It's weird. I could have sworn that this band, I either saw them or they were advertised for the Punk Rock Temple, which was like the punk rock venue in Brooklyn. Like literally everybody came through there, and I could have sworn like this name. I was like, this is so familiar. I had to. It would have been the only point where I had any knowledge of these guys. But I want to open it up to the rest of you guys before I hop in with some of my thoughts. Scotty, what did you think of A Loss for Words?
I had actually never heard of this band before, so I was really glad I got a chance to sit down with this record and listen to it. I put down specifically that I was really enjoying Where I'm From, You Die With Your Secrets, Hold Your Breath, and The Promise You Keep. are the three songs that I really took away from this one. It sounds like what I believe the natural progression of pop punk should be. It is a pop punk record at its core, but it still has that bit of heaviness that you might get from something like a 4 Year Strong or something like that. So I really dug this a lot.
It's funny that you mentioned 4 Years Strong in the same breath as them, because the last time we saw A Lost for Words do anything related to a live performance, they surprised everybody at a 4 Year Strong anniversary show in Worcester.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's funny you mentioned that, Scotty. I put down here that it is super catchy, but it never gets too poppy, which is what I feel a lot of today's pop punk goes, where it's pop with a little bit of punk. Yeah. Whereas this, I feel, was way more like, a hard rock or a harder edged punk with some pop elements.
Yeah.
Which is enjoyable, in for what it's going for. Truman, what did you think of this one?
Like Scotty, I'd never heard of this band before. Maybe I saw their name, but this album fucking kills, man. What a great album, beginning to end. Like, absolutely shreds. Love it. They made one fatal mistake, and that is you never put the acoustic song in the middle of the album for a pop punk band. The rules are it's at the end. Yeah. Pennywise should have taught you this like 10, 15 years ago. Acoustic song at the end of the album. But besides that, love it. Favorite two tracks are probably 40 Thieves and Heavy Lies the Crown. That song is killer. I mean, great album. So now, I gotta go dig their catalog up and listen to more, because this is a fantastic record.
Tell them.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I have to go back and check out a lot of their other stuff, because, I mean, I want to say this experience in listening feels incomplete, but I feel like that's a bad undertone, because I enjoyed the record, but it feels like I need more to kind of get the understanding of what they're really trying to do. And Truman, you mentioning Mount St. Joseph, which is the acoustic song, that to me was the one I think that stood out the most, in my opinion. It just feels like it's a ready for radio song. Like if rock radio still exists or existed, because it does not, that would be a song that you'd probably be hearing all over on rock radio. It stood out to me huge. And in terms of like sound, I know I always get like comparisons and stuff. This was a lot of this kind of gave me some early, first record Saves the Day, and then mixed with kind of middle of the career Senses Fail. So kind of coming together on that. I thought that they put those sounds together really, really nicely. This was a killer record. I probably listened to more pop punk with this show than I have at any other point. Or driving with Chris, because Chris is just, he's a suburban white kid from Staten Island. Of course he's going to play some pop punk. With that said, what did we rate this A Loss for Words album? I'm going to start with you, Johnny.
10 times I dreamed about A Loss for Words reunion tours and woke up disappointed, out of
10. Scotty.
9 bands I'm really mad I'll never get to see live myself, out of 10.
Fuck, man. Truman.
I gave them 8 early 2000s Warped Tour circle pits out of 10.
Those were some fun circle pits.
Yes, sir.
They certainly were, especially if you went in a venue where it was like dusty, and then you hit that circle pit, you get the dust tornado, and then you're sneezing out black boogers for a week.
Yeah.
Brilliance. I gave this one 8 out of 10, and if I get this out in one breath, 8 out of 10, kids wearing throwdown hoodies when you know there's a Hawthorne Heights shirt under it.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings about A Loss for Words?
Go listen to them more.
Yeah, I'm 100% on that same boat where I think tomorrow's workout is 100% going to be just them on shuffle, get all their albums, and just kind of like see what it throws at me and see like, oh, this sounds good, and kind of check the songs from there.
Just do yourself a favor. Go look up A Loss for Words Motown Classics and just put that on shuffle.
Yeah, no, 100%. You sent that to the group chat for this, and that one isn't on Spotify, which right. I was kind of bummed with. So I'm gonna have to listen to that on YouTube. There's so much good music that just isn't on Spotify, and it bugs the hell out of me.
I was gonna mention real quick that somebody's brother. Played with them before in one of his old bands, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that.
That's pretty dope.
There.
Don't show me.
She likes to hide.
Last week's guest, Angela, everybody. So, with that said, let's move on to Scotty's pick, which is, again, this is the recurring theme of my output on this show, which is I've heard of this band. Everybody I know has put this band over. I should be a fan of them, but because I'm a music hipster douchebag, that did not happen. Lay it on us, Scotty.
I went with Brooklyn, New York's own World Inferno Friendship Society and their third album, Red Eyed Soul, a band that anytime you see them could have 5 members, could have 25 members, you never know. Known for their big Halloween performance every year called Hallowmas. And their band includes people who have been in bands like Leftover Crack, The Hold Steady, Dexy's Midnight Runner, and also someone who was in Davy Jones from the Monkees solo band.
I looked that up. That was fucking that's a cool nugget of info.
This is an album that I really like a lot because there are so many different sounds and feelings. Just in the opening 5 tracks alone, there are so many different things that I feel listening to those that I get super excited. And also, Jerusalem Boys is one of the most anthemic gypsy circus punk songs I've probably ever heard in my life. This is just a really good, fun record.
I'm going to hold all of my notes outside of one for right now, which, again, when I listen to something, I'm like, this is weird, interesting, I should know more, and I look it up, and I found that nugget of info about the drummer. But in finding out, like, oh, from Brooklyn, New York, of course they're from fucking Brooklyn. These guys 100% are chilling out in, like, whatever collectives there are in fucking Bushwick and Williamsburg at this point, and chilling out at tea shops, I'm sure of it. But I want to get your guys' opinion. Truman, lay it on us. What'd you think of this record?
Well, first of all, if you're a music hipster douchebag, this is the band you should be listening to nonstop.
You're 100% right.
Hipster douchebags. But I mean, I love this band. I joke with that, but they're a fantastic band. Now, the singer was originally in New Jersey punk band Sticks and Stones. The first time I ever saw him was Sticks and Stones and the Bouncing Souls at Middlesex Community College in like 1994, I think. All right, but getting back to this album, I own it, so I love it. It's a fantastic album. Only Anarchists Are Pretty and Velocity of Love are my probably 2 favorite tracks on it. But they're definitely something you want to listen to when you don't want to listen to hardcore and punk rock and you need something crazy to listen to. This is the band.
Yeah.
Right? It's this Go-Go Bordello, right? It's basically one of 2. But I mean, you know, Brother of the Mayor Bridgewater. Well, they're talking about Bridgewater, New Jersey, of course, you know, because that's where the singer's from originally. He doesn't want to admit it that he's from New Jersey, but he is. He is. Don't let him fool you. He is from New Jersey. But yeah, again, it's such a great album to listen to.
Yeah, you mentioned Only Anarchists Are Pretty. That one was the one that was like it for me. I put that on repeat at least 4 or 5 times. Just such a fun record. Johnny, what did you think about this one?
I completely echo all the sentiments about how fun it was. Every song was a toe tapper in some way, shape, or form. There's points where it gets like kind of loungy, which is like really great, and I'm a sucker for that. Probably my biggest takeaways, Your Younger Man and Brother of the Mayor of Bridgewater were 2 that right away went on the regular plays. But I'm really going to have to dive into this some more because I can't imagine, like, there's got to be an insane variety of sound across their whole catalog. So I just imagine I'm going to find some wild shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think the vibe that I got listening to this is like, this is probably a band that just sits there and goes, fuck it, let's write this weird song, and does it, and then just goes nuts from there on their other stuff. The first note that I took literally 10 seconds into the first song was I wrote, holy shit, can an accordion rock like this? Is that legal? And yeah, man, like, I don't expect to listen to accordion music unless it's like Weird Al. Like that's the truth.
Yep.
But this was like making an accordion rock, and that was really cool. And I also wrote down like I could totally get my mother into this band, which is weird and I'll explain why. I weirdly got some Billy Joel vibes.
Yeah, 100%.
My mother's favorite group in existence, favorite artist is Billy Joel, and I got some Joel vibes because the songwriting is there. It's not just like a mishmash of sounds, like, and I hate to say it because I really like them, but like Bomb the Music Industry is a great band, but sometimes they sound like a mishmash of sounds because they're just throwing a lot of instruments out there to try and like really be artists. Where I feel like this band has songs that in their core could be done on a piano with a singer, and they're brilliant, and then they're just like, fuck it, let's throw in a xylophone. Yeah. One of the other cool things that I did when I looked this band up, one of their sax players, or like for the one who played with them for years, played in a band called Gut Bucket, who, as we come full circle, I saw Gut Bucket open for Wesley Willis at the Knitting Factory in New York City. One of my favorite shows that I ever went to. I am still on Gut Bucket's mailing list, but I haven't gotten mail from them in quite some time. You know, COVID is fucking it up for everybody. Yeah, I this is a band that I'm 1,000% going to be diving more into because the songs are just good. And Truman, goddamn, you have been the purveyor of like truths today in saying that this is what you listen to when you just don't want to listen to hardcore, but you still want to fucking rock. Love it. What did we rate this album, Scotty? I'm starting with you.
10 very intoxicated performances of Pumpkin Time out of 10.
Johnny.
8 Pompadour Soul Patch combos out of 10.
Sweet Christmas. Truman.
8 22-year-old college art students wearing 1930s clothing out of 10.
I gave this one, and again, this is going to be a mouthful, 9 out of 10 floor plans for the stage you're playing on because you need to find space for the fella playing the glockenspiel.
Hell yeah, you do.
All right, so with that said, are there any other questions, comments, feelings, or concerns about World Inferno Friendship Society's Red-Eyed Soul?
Just make the band name easier to say. It's a lot. A lot.
With WIFS, it doesn't quite have the abbreviation. Doesn't quite have the
whiffs.
Whiffs.
Yeah, whiffs. I'm going to see whiffs at fucking St. Vitus. So they wouldn't play St. Vitus.
Whiffs. I don't know.
All right, so let's move on to my pick this week, and that would be Leeway's Born to Expire. They just put this back on Spotify like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and literally when it came back on, I'm like, yes, because this was on my list, I think within the top 3. I have tweeted out, I have put up Facebook statuses multiple times saying if you look up underrated in the dictionary, you will see Eddie Leeway's face right there. Currently all cracked out, but I still love Eddie Leeway. This band... When you talk about that late 80s sound of mixing thrash with, punk rock, these guys were right up there in like the New York forefront, the Northeast, just really grinding away. And I feel like this is the band that does that sound to me perfectly. I know like Gangrene is one of the most well-known, and Suicidal Tendencies is another brilliant band that really was able to do crossover. These guys, to me, are crossover thrash, and this album is my favorite of theirs, even though we could pick out tracks from some of their later stuff where they really kind of start mixing up with some hip-hop sounds. And I mentioned it in the group chat to you guys. Hot damn, how did we have years of nu metal and nobody went back to find like Foot the Bill or Kingpin? Like Kingpin, how did nobody in nu metal just go, yo, we're covering Leeway's Kingpin, which isn't on this record. But I'd love to get your guys' take on this one. I'm going to start with Johnny.
Holy shit, what a fucking record. In terms of, like, so I was expecting, something along the lines of, like, hardcore, like, just, like, hardcore, like, crossover was got way more thrash than I thought I was going to be getting out of this. I thought it was going to be towing the line, but my God, it was like I was getting New Order era Testament with Flea on the fucking bass. It was amazing. And their bass player and the sound throughout the whole record is absolutely next level, which is why like this was like crossover with some funk mixed in. And I swear when I got to Born to Expire, like the actual track Born to Expire, I ran that back like fucking 5 times because all the different sound changes in that song where it starts off all Sabbathy and then it gets thrashy and then we get a little bit of that fucking rap metal sound that resonates in our souls, brother.
Yes.
Oh man, I had to run that one part back just by like 30-second minute increments. I'm like, oh my God, this is Limp Bizkit grew out of this. Like this is it warmed my heart. I love this. I love this record so much. I'm happy to see that this band is an active band again because I literally messaged Rip and Perry earlier, being like, I've missed out on this for decades now, and I don't understand how. So, thank God. But can't say enough.
The live band is pretty much just Eddie, as I said, a bit out of his mind at this point. So that's putting it lightly. I'm trying to be nice because I'm putting over the record, but there's if you'd like to check it out, you, Johnny, or anyone else watching, Hate 5-6 has recorded a couple of their shows, and Eddie is out there. His voice ain't what it used to be, but he's still going, he's still touring, they're working hard. I really love the fact that you picked up on all those sounds, which again, I can't think of many bands that were doing that outside of Anthrax that were like going, we're gonna throw some like funk and rap grooves into our sound. But I feel like Anthrax made that more like a novelty of their sound instead of like making it their sound. Scotty, what did you think of Born to Expire?
The first time I listened to this record, I got up to Defy You, and this record mugged me, stole my wallet, and left. And I don't appreciate that very much. Dude, this record beat the fucking shit out of me the first time I heard it. I was getting vibes of like the super early Corrosion of Conformity when they were trying to convince people they were a hardcore band, but they were playing that kind of sludgy thrash almost. I got definite vibes of like DRI and Suicidal Tendencies and Infectious Grooves with some of the bass lines. I definitely got that. And those live songs that they threw at the end there were amazing. That was a nice little treat at the end of the record.
Yeah, that's just, again, like all the live tracks which are were added on in this edition of the album are all from the mid to late 80s. And just from shows there, and man, fucking Eddie's voice was just so good, and it was crazy because how many guys were hitting those notes again? Like Mike from Suicidal, hell of a frontman, but no one's gonna confuse him for a singer. Any of the Gangrene DRI, great frontman, no one's gonna. And Eddie could hit those notes when he hits that. In Rise and Fall, that doesn't make it funny, just uncomfortable. It's man, we're getting some that's metal right there.
Yeah.
I love that shit. Truman, what did you think of Born to Expire? I know you know this record.
All right, I'm gonna try not to turn this into a Leeway podcast, but I apologize. This was the first hardcore band I ever got into as a teenager. First show I ever went to with City Gardens was them in Vision. And at the show, I go there and I'm like, I just hope they play Kingpin. I hope they play Kingpin. It's all I could think about. And it was the song they opened up with.
Man.
First, my first memories of Leeway is just an amazing show. I actually heard Desperate Measures first and then went back to Born to Expire. But I love this band. You guys described the sound perfectly. This was the sound in the early 90s, was that like Chili Peppers had a huge influence, thrash had a huge influence, and bands like this, Token Entry's Weight of the World has a lot of this. If you ever go back and listen to that album, there's a lot of influence there. Mucky Pup, Scatterbrain, there's like a lot of that sound that this was like. And I mean, Leeway just did it faster, screamier. Yeah, I mean, Mark of the Squealer. Yeah, he has his like killer voice. And yeah, now maybe his voice isn't great, but I mean, I will still go see them. I don't even care. I love Leeway.
Oh, yeah.
I love this album. I could just name every song, but I mean, Enforcer, Mark the Squealer, Catholic High School, those are probably my three favorites. I mean, guys, why don't we just do another podcast and I can just talk about this band? Because when you mentioned that there was going to be a pick, I'm like, well, this is going to be the easiest show ever because I own three of the albums we're talking about tonight. So I already knew three of them. Yeah, it's Leeway. It's one of my favorite New York hardcore bands of all time. Just a phenomenal band. The album's so good. Yeah, I'll stop now. I can go on forever.
But this is the reason why I say that they're so underrated, because if you step outside of New York and talk to metal people or hardcore people, a good majority of them are never going to bring up Leeway in the discussion of great bands or great records or influential. They don't bring that shit up, and that's what is super crazy to me. A weird, interesting, fun tidbit of information. The song Enforcer was the first entrance theme that I ever wanted to use. I gave them at Gleason's Gym, I gave them the CD because we had to use CDs at that time because I'm an old douchebag. We gave them the CD with the song on it, and I was so stoked to come out, and I think they played Britney Spears instead. So I never actually came out to the song, but I wanted to really badly because all I wanted to do was be called the Enforcer and base it around that song. Ratings for this one. I'm going to start with Johnny.
This is getting 8 sweaty basement metal shows full of dudes that look like Vikings out of 10.
Scotty.
9 pairs of jean shorts that may have been cut just a little too short out of 10.
That might be my favorite one ever. Holy shit. Truman, what'd you rate this one?
This is 10 Eddie Leeways on a bike, on stage, at Club Deep out of 10.
That's did you just play my heartstrings right there? I gave this one 10 out of 10 dudes in Yankee ball caps saying, "Fuck you looking at." Any other questions, comments, concerns, or feelings about Born to Expire by Leeway?
Again, it'd just be another half hour of me talking about that band. So
yeah, I think this album and maybe the first album I picked on here, Stick and Poke, would be the records that were the reason why I've always wanted to do something like this, where I could just gush about things. Because again, Leeway's a band that outside of you, Truman, most people do not know. This is love this, so close to my heart. I'm probably gonna, in the midst of listening to a Lost for Words tomorrow, I'll probably sneak in Kingpin at least once or twice.
Hell yeah. And Ball Hugger. Ball Hugger you gotta put in there.
Ball Hugger is another one. And then what's the song on Desperate Measures that I fucking love? Who's to Blame, I think it is. Which has that just really catchy chorus. They get the flange on the guitar. I think that's it. That was when they started to try and get catchy. Anyway, guys, I think that concludes for this show. Let's go around. Scotty, where can we find you on social media?
Twitter and Instagram at SC Ceriti.
Johnny.
Twitter and Instagram at The Concept JT.
Truman.
Twitter at The Truman. Instagram Truman237.
And you could find me on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at King of Chaos NYC. And this is posted on the Year One Wrestling Podcast YouTube account. There's so much stuff coming up. My wife is ready to divorce me because I have her watching terrible wrestling every week. You guys could watch me try and sell that to her on Pro Wrestling Explained to my wife. And then if you check out podcasts, go ahead and subscribe to the Year One Podcast on on literally anywhere that you can get a podcast, and on social media at Year1 Pod. For myself and for our awesome guests, we thank you for checking out. Dude, have you heard this? We'll see you guys next week.